Okay, y'all, lately I have been hooked to this game, and it's definitely a hidden gem that's right under our nose, and it's called Xuan Sword Mist Beyond the Mountains. It's a remake of the third game in this series, a Taiwanese RPG that originally came out all the way back in 1999. And here in the West, though, we've only gotten two other games in this long-running series, which I haven't played yet, but, after playing this one and loving it so much, they're definitely on my list. So today I want to tell you all about the game, including my experiences with it, what it's all about, what the story is, what this game series is, just kind of like everything about it. And I definitely do think this is worth the sub as you come and you join our party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your hype. It helps me out a ton. And now, let's go on back, time travel to the 8th century, and travel the world. I just absolutely love RPGs that take place in the real world and use real life areas and real historical events as well. After all, I'm pretty much like a historian. I'm a big old history nerd, my degree was in history, and I was a history teacher for over 14 years. I mean, you don't start in some sort of fantasy kingdom here with crystals and evil sorcerers, you start in actual medieval Europe, serving a real historical ruler, and the game just kind of casually sends you across the Middle East, and on into Tang Dynasty China like it's just totally normal. And the best part, it actually cares about where you are. These aren't just like generic towns. You're going to be seeing empires rising, religions clashing, and people getting crushed under systems bigger than themselves. You're not just like saving history, you are there in history, surviving it, watching it unfold, and also trying to fend off Satan and an army of demons all at the same time. But before we do get deeper into Xuan Sword Mists Beyond the Mountains, let's talk about the whole Xuan Sword series so that you know what you're dealing with here. This is actually one of the longest running RPG franchises ever, kicking off all the way back in 1990 with the very first Xuan Sword game on the PC. And the reason why we didn't get it here? Well, it wasn't developed in Japan, instead it came from Taiwan. And yeah, similar to Sword and Fairy, this series is basically like a pillar of Taiwanese RPG history at this point. Over the years, it spawned a bunch of mainline games and side stories, 13 PC RPGs, a handful of online titles, and even like anime and TV adaptations, all mixing in Chinese mythology, like the legendary sword and the Yellow Emperor, along with historical and supernatural storytelling. The numbered entries alone chronicle everything from the early mythic battles to Dynasty-era adventures, and the series gradually evolved from old-school 2D turn-based RPGs on into later games with 3D combat and action elements. For decades, though, most of these were only really available in Chinese, so, people over here just didn't even know about it. But recently, they've been starting to come out in English. So the story of this game, well, it's an odd bird. You play as Septim, a Frankish knight of mixed heritage who looks different enough that people never let him forget that. And the game leans on into it. You're constantly reminded that you don't fully belong anywhere. In most RPGs, you're the hero, and you walk into town, everybody's like, oh yeah, you're easily the hero. Not here. People give you the side eye, they doubt you, and they sometimes straight up treat you like a problem. And it makes the whole journey feel more personal and more uncomfortable, but in a good way. Anyway, Septim is sent away from France to a mission in Venice, and that's where the game starts. He's there to rescue some Arabs so he can set sail east and eventually make his way onto China. Sounds pretty simple, right? Wrong, because naturally, like any good JRPG, a satanic cult appears, murdering anyone and everyone who gets in their way. Christians, Muslims, Jews, anyone. Because of course, that cult serves Satan himself. Yeah, Satan is actually literally involved in the game, but somehow, one of the cultists, as you're in Venice, summons like this little demon girl named Nicole, who actually likes you and joins up your party. Yeah, I told you it was odd. We have Satanists trying to fight us, along with demons who are fighting against them, and they're all infiltrating the real world. You don't have to question it, you just kind of have to accept it, because the game just makes it work. But what doesn't work is the translation, because, my god, it's bad, but not like horrible in like an unplayable sense. It's more horrible in like the, it's so bad, it's good sort of way. Like, how is this even happening bad? The lines are like hysterically literal. You'll get things like, a dog who bites the hand of its owner is a bad dog. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess it's true, but like, really? or sometimes explanations of terms will kind of like show up in parentheses right in the middle of dialogue. And then there's this one part where this kid cries after a terrifying trip through hell itself, and then he comes out and the script just says, "Boo-hoo." I mean, you're not supposed to find that funny, at least in the original script I suppose, but I personally was busting out laughing. The tragic events are punctuated with things like, "I have to go," instead of, actual dialogue or emotion. But the characters are still charming, and the story is surprisingly coherent, and somehow, even with the writing being, let's say, Secret of the Stars tier, you still actually care about what happens. It's basically like reading Shakespeare, but it's translated by ChatGPT and just no one gives a shit. However, as ridiculous as it sounds, it's like oddly endearing. So now, let's talk about the combat. The encounters are random, and it's kind of active turn-based, similar to the SNES Final Fantasies, and you have up to 4 different controllable party members, though it does take quite a bit of time to get all 4 party members, but it still moves along at a lightning quick pace. You've got 3 meters to keep track of: your HP, your MP, and Vitality, which is used for combos and summoning monsters. And you also have limit breaks here too. But what's really interesting is the Spirit Fusion mechanic. Septim has this artifact called the Spirit Fusion Pot, and when monsters are in critical condition, you can tame them and then add them to your inventory. Then you can fuse them with other monsters to make even stronger monsters. Then you can equip those monsters like armor for status bonuses, and then even summon them in battle, where they act on AI until the fight ends. There's a ton of variety here. And there's also both Western and Eastern mythological branches of the monsters, and then eventually, whenever you do take your Western monsters and you move to East, the outcomes of the fusion can really depend wildly on that. It's kind of like Shin Megami Tensei's fusion system, but just kind of easier to do and really satisfying. Also, after combat, you'll of course gain experience in gold, but also equipment points. As you fight with the equipment that you have equipped, you'll gain proficiency, and the more proficiency that you have, the better off it'll be. Your weapons will gain more attack power and accuracy, armors will gain more defense and agility, and accessories will increase various stats and resistances. So you're not just going to be like buying the most recent piece of equipment at the shop, because, maybe your older equipment has more proficiency, so it's actually stronger. I really liked this aspect. Visually, this is a port of a PS1 game, and it looks it. And the battle sprites are kind of interesting. They're hand-drawn and they're charming, and so are your sprites. They're obviously hand-drawn and kind of charming in kind of like a Microsoft Paint sort of way, but it all works surprisingly well, and the backgrounds here kind of feel like brush paintings. And the portraits in the text boxes reminded me of like early Suikoden art, although not everything matches perfectly. Certain scenes, like a massive naval battle early on in the game, have this kind of FMV, and it's kind of dated, if I gotta say it. Do y'all remember those FMVs in Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, the ports on the PS1? I do, mostly because they weren't all that good. And I remember reading an article that Square did not even want to release those games in the West because they were embarrassed of their FMVs, even though there was only like one of them right at the introduction of the game. But anyway, we eventually did get them. Holla frickin' Luya. But I've gotta say, these FMVs look like they're just, straight lifted up from the 1999 game. It is rough around the edges, and I can't help but like sit back and watch them in astonishment, but also amusement. The game just kind of like makes me laugh at times where it's not supposed to make me laugh. And in today's day and age, I just need just as many laughs as I can possibly get. The cast is solid, even though it does have this wonky translation. Miles and Cornelius aren't like cartoon villains. They represent rigid ideology and moral absolutism. Nicole, the demon girl, questions her role and develops depth over time. And your later party members kind of represent like alternate paths that Septim could have taken, and they make you think and they feel about how different choices affect your journey. The script is, nonsensically goofy, but the heart of these characters shines through. The world feels alive, historical, but weirdly grounded, even when there are like cute demon girls and cosmic horror shows thrown in for good measure. But the wild part is, the game actually cares about where you are. You're not going through like vaguely desert-themed town number 5 here. You're walking through real places with real names in the middle of real historical chaos. Empires are rising, religions are clashing, people are getting crushed under systems bigger than themselves. And you're not fixing history or saving the world from it happening. You're just kind of like there, watching it unfold, seeing how ugly and complicated everything is. What got me though is how the game slowly goes off the rails. You think at first that you're on a grounded historical adventure. Then little by little, it starts introducing demons, reincarnation, and time travel. But it doesn't seem like a random genre switch. It feels like the game pulling the curtain back and saying oh, by the way, all this human suffering that you're seeing, there's something even worse feeding on into it. And the cast helps sell that vibe too. No one here feels like a party member just because the game needs a healer or a mage, you know? Everybody is actually there for a reason. And Nicole isn't a demon in this I'm super evil sort of way. She's actually kind of cute and kind of funny. And then she slowly realizes that she kind of signed up for the wrong side. Everyone there exists to challenge how you see the world, not just there to back you up in fights. All the towns and the world does feel alive, with all sorts of secrets and treasures to find. And quite honestly, it is some of the strangest side quests and puzzles I've ever seen in my entire life. The townsfolk will give you math problems. Yeah, I know, math problems. It sounds like something from high school algebra. There's this one example. A guy has to get to Medina, but the ship is delayed by 2 days. But he'll get there in 5 days, but his friend will get there in 7 days. So how long will it take him to get to Medina and meet up with his friends? And you actually have to do the math to solve it. I mean, really? I don't know if this is an educational thing or a cultural quirk, but I was really puzzled every single time. Do kids in Taiwan like doing math problems for fun? Really? What is going on here? Because I certainly don't. But honestly, the game is just kind of so odd in so many different ways that this was just kind of another really odd, strange thing that set it apart from the rest. So yeah, I've just got to say, Xuan Sword Mist Beyond the Mountains is a wild ride. You've got global historical scales here, an awkward but hilarious translation, monster-fusing mechanics, turn-based combat, bizarre math puzzles, and a story that blends human tragedy, philosophy, and supernatural chaos. It's ambitious, funny, sometimes frustrating, but totally endearing. And if you're into history like me, or just strange, weirdo RPGs, or games that feel like they were made by people who didn't care if everything made sense, then this here is definitely worth checking out. It's a 90s RPG that actually makes you think about morality, war, and human suffering, while still letting you collect monsters and summon demons? Hey, now that there is a hidden gem.